It is just gone 6 minutes past 7, Greenwich Mean Time. Here in the UK, you're back with the American Dream Team on Siren 107.3 FM. That was the Sky News at 7, followed by Toto and Africa, Power Ballad, if ever there was one. And now we are delighted to be joined by our second phone guest.
Yeah, on the line we should have Camilla Barker. Are you there, Camilla?
I am, hi.
Hi. Now, you're over in Massachusetts, aren't you? Because you're actually a Fulbright scholar at Harvard Law School. So, first of all, tell us, what's the weather been like where you are?
Well, everybody kept going on about this this hurricane that was meant to be coming over, and I think pretty much as soon as it hit the land, it's kind of dissipated. So
Okay.
we're all right in Massachusetts.
Okay.
There's, a few trees down, a few tiles off the roof, but nothing more major than that, thank God.
Nothing major. That's good. I know they've been hit far worse kind of in New York.
Yeah, a little further down the coast. But.
Yeah. So anyway, you're doing an LLM specialising in human rights at Harvard Law. Yeah. So tell us what made you apply for a Fulbright scholarship.
Well, in the kind of international law field, or the international field generally, names like Fulbright can really, kind of push you along in your career, sort of thing. So I'd heard about it from that, and I'd heard about friends who had applied for it previously, or colleagues who had applied for it previously anyway. And so that's how I kind of found out about it. And then as soon as I started reading about it, it kind of matched everything that I wanted to do with, with my career and with my study, etc. So I just went from there, really.
Yeah. So how different is it studying? I mean, there's a couple of us here who've actually studied, kind of spent a semester studying over there. But how are you finding studying in America compared to studying
Oh, I love
here?
it. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's really, really good. The kind of, the environment that you're in and the communities that you're in seem to be a lot more active.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's kind of true of all the schools, everywhere. I don't want to kind of generalise, but
No.
definitely here it's very, it's really active. There's a lot of support, and there's a lot more kind of outside the classroom things that you can get involved with that are directly linked to your courses. So, for example, this semester I'm doing a course on capital punishment in America, and then I'm going to be spending January working. At the moment, it looks like either Texas or Louisiana, working on death row with clients there. So the kind of outside activities really link in well to what you're actually studying in the classroom, which is brilliant.
Well, we're all kind of...
Wow, yeah.
That's obviously an amazing opportunity for you to do over in the States. Now, I know that you are, you do volunteer sort of in the past for, you've been a Red Cross volunteer. So obviously you're, as a Fulbright scholar, you're going to throw yourself into extracurricular activities.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's part of the kind of the Fulbright, the way that Fulbright works. They kind of pick people and want to be involved with people and want to help people who give something back. So I don't know. I've done volunteering for a long, long time. I got involved with the Red Cross with my nan actually. Is kind of quite high up in the Lincolnshire Red Cross, and so I got involved with it through that. I got involved with a lot of the kind of local events that were going on, and then as I've kind of grown up with the Red Cross, I've got involved with a few different kind of things like fundraising and awareness building and all things like that. But I mean, Fulbright kind of goes after people who want to be active. So
yeah.
That's just kind of...
You mentioned Lincolnshire. That we should mention, if our listeners didn't pick it up, that you're actually from the Lincolnshire area, from Skegness. Is that right?
No, I went to school in Skegness. But I was born in Boston, and then I moved out near Horncastle.
Mm-hmm.
So Horncastle area, really.
Yeah. So I mean, it's quite. How can I say this without sounding? It's so
it's a journey.
Excellent. It's very cool that you are. Did you ever imagine, when you were here at school in Lincolnshire, that you ever might, be able to go to Harvard to study?
I didn't even dare dream about it. It's one of those things that Harvard, especially for Harvard Law as well, because I mean you see it in all the films and all that kind of thing. So I knew this place existed, but it really felt like it existed only in a film.
Yeah.
And that was true actually right up until I was in the Fulbright process, because the way that it worked last year, I think they're changing it this year, but the way that it worked last year is you applied for the funding first, pretty much. So you apply for your Fulbright, and then once you're on the Fulbright books, then you start applying to the schools. And even at that point, I still didn't even know if I was going to apply to Harvard, because it seemed too big and too much like a dream.
Yeah.
So, even at that point, and still sometimes I walk around and people say something Harvard, and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm actually here, sort of thing. So it just kind of hit you. So at no point when I was in Lincolnshire, or even now, do I kind of believe that I would be here. So
Yeah.
it's pretty big.
Yeah. I mean, it's we were talking to the Fulbright director Michael Scott Klein earlier. Yeah, and obviously he was saying that not everybody within kind of who gets Fulbright scholarships do go to the Ivy League schools, but I think it's particularly poignant for us here in Lincolnshire to know that one of our own has
managed to do it, and not necessarily from a position of great privilege. Getting to say whatever private school in this country, you can you can do these things through scholarships that are available to anyone, as Michael Scott Klein was saying to us earlier on. Anyone can apply. All right, you might not get to the Ivy League, but you might, and it's there. The opportunity is there.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you have to remember as well that Ivy League is a bit of it's not a very good kind of structure for judging a school, really, because it's only East Coast schools, but there are fantastic schools across the whole of the United States. So Ivy League as a standard is probably not something that you can accurately judge anything by.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just a label, I suppose, isn't it? So.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think one other thing that surely the boys will want to ask you about is that you've been involved in women's football.
Right.
And I'm assuming that's soccer, as the Americans call it.
Yeah. Yeah. I nearly did something terrible the other day. I nearly said soccer to an English person.
I'm sure they would have corrected you very, very quickly.
They definitely shouldn't have accepted it.
No, they didn't. But
Quite right too. I commend them on that.
So, do you actually play football at Harvard? Do they have a good women's team?
Well, the way that the kind of the school works there is there's an undergraduate team, but obviously the law school is a graduate school, because you can only get into legal education as a graduate in the States. And there wasn't actually a team here when I got here, which really annoyed me, so I set one up. So now Harvard's law has a soccer team, or a football team, a women's soccer team. So
So that just shows you're making your way into the history books.
Yeah, founded from right here in Lincolnshire.
Yeah. So as long as you've called it the Harvard Law football team, then we're fully approving.
They wouldn't understand. I would never get anybody.
There'd be people turning up in helmets and all sorts.
Yeah.
Shoulder pads.
Yeah,
Soccer would be an interesting game. You should make them play in American football gear.
Yeah.
That would probably be wise, actually. We seem to come off the when we play inside, so the scope for kind of going crazy isn't that massive, but I always seem to come off the it's a court. I want to say pitch, but it's a court. I always seem to come off the court with more bruises than I went on with. So
yeah, get some helmets sorted. It'll be fine.
I think we do need some kind of additional protection.
So tell us, how long...
Jack's throwing things around, sorry.
How long are you actually going to be out at Harvard? How long will this course be for?
Well, it's a 9-month course,
Okay.
like usual master's degrees. Well, one academic year, so obviously 9 months.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be out in the States until next May, and then I'm going to apply to a doctorate program after that, but I don't know whether it's going to be in the States.
Okay.
So, there are visa requirements as well, because we come over, as we are told many, many times by Fulbright, because we come over on a J1 visa, which is a government-sponsored visa. There's a residency requirement, so I've got to be back in the UK for
2-year residency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I love the UK. So
No, well, that's great. Well, thank you ever so much for coming on and telling us
Thanks very much.
about your Fulbright experience and your experiences of studying in the US. We're always very keen to talk to students, especially who are living the American experience.
Yeah.
And
Definitely one worth going.
yeah.
I thought you were going to say living the American dream then. That would have been
That's what I
very
was
poignant.
hoping
I thought that's what you were going for. How poetic.
But yes, no, thank you for coming on, and hopefully you'll keep in touch and let us know how you're getting on in the future.
I will do. Thanks a lot
Brilliant.
for having me.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Bye.
I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
So yeah, that was Camilla Barker there, live from Massachusetts, and this is the American Dream Team. 7:20. We shall be rapidly approaching our next interview with Harrison Smith, but before we do, we have a Halloween-themed song. It's an interesting one. Stick with it. You'll enjoy it.